It's a wonderful pleasure to be able to introduce Pam today. For myself, although I'm an Anglican priest, I've been greatly strengthened by both the peace witness, but also the commitment to silence and deep listening of the Quaker tradition. So we thought it would be good for Pam to say a few words on behalf of that tradition.
Thanks, Jonathan. As Jonathan said, my name is Pam Tooth, and I'm a member of the Religious Society of Friends, or a Quaker, or a friend with a capital F. So today I speak from my own experience and point of view, because as a friend I cannot speak for all Quakers. In fact, I'm having some difficulty speaking altogether today because I'm recovering from a cold. So I apologise for my slightly recalcitrant voice. When Joe asked me if I would speak as a Quaker in terms of what part meditation plays in the Religious Society of Friends, my initial response was, well, it's more about silence than meditation. And certainly I'll go on to speak that many Quakers would use meditation in their daily practice, but the actual focus for many Quakers in our meeting for worship is about silence. I will speak a little bit about the Religious Society of Friends because many people have heard of Quakers, but for those who are not familiar, I'll just speak a little bit briefly about some of the history and features. And I am reading because otherwise I have a little bit of a propensity to talk too much, which is very un-Quakerly. So the society began in Britain in the 17th century when a young man called George Fox began to ask many questions about his faith and more about the way in which the forms of worship took place at that time. He ultimately came to the revelation that there is that of God in everyone and in each person, and they therefore, in a sense, had a direct line to God, and therefore there was no need for intermediaries in the form of priests. There was no place that was unworthy, no time unholy, and no person was too lowly to minister. It therefore followed that there was no need for special places like churches, that faith was lived every day, thus giving no special meaning to any particular day of the week. Now, having said that Quakers believed there was no particular place to worship, and many forms of worship took place outside or in friends' houses, there is now more of a tradition in larger centres for there to be a meeting house. Present-day Quakerism continues as a way of life rather than a dogma or a creed. It rests on a conviction that by looking into their inmost hearts, people can have direct communication with their Creator. We speak of the light within, or that of God in everyone. In present-day Quakerism, there are many differences in the names that we call the inner teacher or the light within, and that reflects basic differences in our understanding of who God is and how God enters our lives. Our differences are our richness and sometimes our problems. We recognise also that the same God is at work in others who call that presence or light within different names, or who understand differently who that God is. So whilst Quakers have no dogma or creed, there are a number of testimonies or ways of living that are valued. And Jonathan mentioned earlier that one of the primary testimonies and ways of living is the testimony for peace. The other major testimonies are simplicity, integrity, community, which involves earth care and equality. So Quakers' understanding of faith is that true human fulfilment comes from an attempt to live life in the spirit of love and truth and peace, answering that of God in everyone. Silence is an absolutely fundamental and important part of the Quaker tradition. As William Penn, an early Quaker, wrote in 1699, True silence is to the spirit what sleep is to the body, nourishment and refreshment. Our meetings for worship, which usually last for an hour, create a space of gathered stillness. So Quakers tend to meet in a circle, and the circle in Toowoomba is relatively small, but if you go to a place like York, the circle, there are tiers of circles so that everybody can see everybody else, and it is very much, as Joe mentioned in terms of Christian meditation, it's the being still together that is very powerful. So we come together where we can listen to the promptings of truth and love in our hearts, which we understand as rising from God or the light within. So there will occasionally be a spoken ministry. So some meetings are silent for the whole hour. At other times, someone might speak. But the tradition within Quakers is that people sit with silence after someone has spoken, so that whatever their message is can be thought through, can be really listened to, deeply listened to. The silence, we believe, enlarges the lives of those present, so that a communion of heart and mind is possible. A communion that achieves a unity based on a respect for diversity. So what part does meditation play in the Quaker life? On speaking with other Quakers, many of them speak of the value of meditation in their day-to-day lives. Some speak of the meditative qualities of walking, gardening, or other creative activities. Earlier this year, I went to our yearly meeting, which is the gathering of friends. And there are generally about 300 Quakers from around Australia who gather. And during that time, one of the features for me was something that was very Quakerly, which was sacred circle dancing. And Joe has also joined recently with U3A in circle dancing. And I've introduced it into our very small tap dancing class at Clifton. And I have to say it doesn't have much of a sacred or meditative quality about it at that time, but certainly that rhythmic movement with very simple steps is very common, particularly in use for Quakers in the UK. The other activity that, again, was very Quakerly was labyrinth walking, and many of you will be familiar with that. And as we walked in meditation earlier today, it reminded me of the steps that we use in the labyrinth walking, which is the monk's step, which I'll now demonstrate. So it is right, left, and then back. And that represents the backsliding we sometimes do. So it's our journey in life. It's going forward, and sometimes it's going back. But again, it's very rhythmic, and that's done in a labyrinth, which again has lots of twists and turns, and sometimes some dead ends for a while. So again, it's very much a meditative way of experiencing life. One of the things that, for me, the journey to become truly silent, especially in my mind, has been and continues to be quite a struggle at times. At the risk of making sweeping generalisations, I think Western society, for the most part, is pretty busy and what I'd call pretty heady, with lots of thinking and lots of talking, and not necessarily in that order. So it would seem that silence is not the default position for many of us in Western society. In fact, I was interested to learn that the Oxford Dictionary, for instance, defines meditation as to think deeply and quietly. And the Cambridge Dictionary states that meditation is to think seriously about something for a long time. Both these definitions have thinking at their core. It's the thinking that at times I wish to seize. So it's a silence or a mental stillness that I seek. My view of many Eastern cultures is that there's much more value placed on such mental stillness and mental silence. And I'm currently practicing a form of yoga as it uses a technique of meditation which specifically focuses on the experience of mental silence. I stress that I speak as a Quaker and do not speak for Quakers, and this is my own particular practice and experimentation. And I did contemplate in doing a little demonstration of that. However, going back to my more Quakerly roots, I will now end with a period of silence and invite you to join in me with that. And as Quakers, our silence is, as I say, often for an hour. I think we'll do about 3 or 4 minutes. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. Now, those who've spoken might like to come and take these seats up here at the front. Is there a portable microphone or something that we've got to be able to use? Okay, it's coming down. Okay. So what I've proposed to do now is to have a little bit of a conversation, just for a few minutes or so, just maybe to tease out one or two of the things that we've shared, and also to invite over coffee or orange juice, whatever else you had. You might have come up with some particular things that you wanted to ask one or all of those who've spoken. So that we can, just tease those things out a little bit more. One of the things that's been struck me, and a couple of people have said to me, is that there's a whole lot of other things and connections and people that I know Joe said something to me the other day about a number of teachers were quite interested in coming along, and so on, couldn't get time off school and so on. There's a whole lot of different dimensions, I think, to this work. So we hope that what we're doing this morning is just opening that up and hopefully encouraging one another to make further connections with others, but also above all to see how we can deepen our own practice. So if you guys like to come forward and hopefully have a microphone.
So I'm going to ask, I think, first of all, Nura Behjat, who's from the Baha'i community, who's also a good friend and a member of Goodwill Committee. I thought, Nura, because we discussed this a little bit, that you might like to say something about your own reflections on this morning and anything from the Baha'i tradition, might be.
Should I start?
Whichever comfortable.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Reverend, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I didn't know about this wonderful opportunity, but I'm so grateful to the speakers because they triggered my mind And as I was listening, I jotted down a few points about prayers and meditation in the Baha'i faith. So I put my glasses on and I looked at my notes. In the Baha'i faith, there is no specific techniques for meditation. However, Baha'is are commanded by Baha'u'llah, the Prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, to always meditate on his words and the other, divine words. In fact, prayers in the Baha'i faith are, many of them obligatory, and most of them are revealed by Baha'u'llah himself and his successors, which is his son and his grandson, and his forerunner, who was martyred. Baha'u'llah invites his followers always to meditate deeply. And we know that meditation, the meaning of meditation, the way I understand, is thinking deeply. But instead of just thinking deeply on nothing, we think on something that was repeatedly mentioned, something useful. In the Baha'i faith, the Baha'is are commanded to direct their prayers and meditations to action. And the greatest action is service to humanity. So if I just keep going in my room, yes, it is good for me to meditate, absolutely, I can't agree more. But in the Baha'i faith, it is not only about the salvation of individual, it is really about the humanity. So whatever a Baha'i does has to be directed about the goodness and betterment of humanity. So my prayer and meditation should result not only in something for me, which is, of course, the wellness of my mind and body and everything, but also in action that benefits humanity. There are different prayers in the Baha'i faith. Some of them are obligatory, and some of them depends on individual. The Baha'is have not been discouraged to learn any type of meditation, so I'm very grateful to be here. I learned a lot today, thank you so much. Talking about mantra, the only thing I can remember about in the Baha'i faith, there is something that is obligatory, and that is two things, in fact. One is to say the words of Baha'u'llah, read his words every morning and every evening, and obligatory prayers, but also 95 times saying Allahu Abha. And Allahu Abha means God is the most glorious, the most luminous being. So, call me Lord, or, the Baha'i faith also has something like that. And silence is absolutely important, but not for no reason. Silence and privacy is there are two things that are important the time that you're saying prayers and meditate. In fact, we have been told the reason privacy is commanded by Baha'u'llah during the time of prayer or meditation is that that the effect of the connection to God is stronger. So Baha'is are supposed to say their prayers in a private place, but of course there are prayers that Baha'i gatherings, meetings, there are prayers. There is no prayers that one person stands, congregational prayers, but like I said, prayers are a personal affair. Also, the last thing I would like to say is that the spiritual dimension of existence is an absolutely important. The connection between mind and soul and body is very much talked about in the Baha'i faith. We do not believe mind and body are the same, but we do believe that man and soul and body are connected, very much connected. But the highest dimension, according to the Baha'i faith, is really that spiritual dimension that really administers our whole being. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nura. Are there any questions or comments people would like to chip in? Yeah? Good.
This one's not actually directed to anyone of you, but Dorothy? Okay. Just wondering, what do you have a practice within your faith for meditation?
I would say a lot of spiritualists meditate, but it's not.
A lot of spiritualists meditate, but it's not really, apart from healing meditation, which we send our thoughts of love to people that need healing into the world. That is definitely a very great part of spiritualism. Yeah?
I would laugh for something. Just picking up a neuron.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I really enjoyed the day as well. And I'm just wondering, and Nura, just picked up on your last point. Like I've heard that all human fear can be traced back to the fear of death. Yeah. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but I've certainly heard it said. So that I know that many traditions talk about a spirit and the consciousness or some aspects of continues after death. And I'm wondering whether you could talk about how meditations may tap you into that more metaphysical aspect of soul, spirit, whatever language. And in meditations, do you experience a sense of the eternity of that sense of self, that consciousness? Well, anyone, please. Thank you.
Who would like to go now? Yeah.
I'm ready to tell you that because my meditation level is still shallow, I'm still on the path on my cultivation. But through meditation, it can heal your body, because there are many examples of our practitioners through the chanting, Buddhist name, who get the cancer, they get cured through the meditation, just very focused. But it is not the short time meditation. For example, they're very focused in chanting Buddhist name for 1 month and seeing the change. Usually, diagnosis have the cancer is there, and you go back to hospital and check, the cancer just disappeared. So we have many such example of our practitioner who are focusing in the meditation and can heal the body. And when you really, the meditation have a different label. When you let go of more of your attachment to discrimination, then you will feel the wider universe and yourself. And finally, eventually, the highest one, you will find all of us, the universe and us, is one. One. Yeah, you will feel that. So, with that way, you will feel the meditation will help you to go to the positive attitude. You will have more compassion, patience, gratitude. All the good quality will glow in your heart. So you will feel more loving towards all being. And that is walking on the true path of enlightenment, the path of enlightenment. So this whole process will begin. And you will find out through meditation, you will restore your original ability. We say that Buddha nature. The Buddha nature that we're able to see more, hear more, and you feel more. But to hear and that is not important. The more important is about our mind. So the spiritual ability is not important. The more important is about your mind. Our mind, we can always keep peace, calmness, and harmony, always be happy. Happiness, the inner happiness, the everlasting happiness. The happiness and joy not come from the outside exciting, but the true inner in yourself. And this will go with you forever.
When you said that, metaphysical, it sort of made me think of a couple of things, and you also dropped my mind on a couple of other things. Okay, never mind if you make me about it. Sorry. Usually I don't need a microphone if you can hear me without it.
That's not intuitive.
No. To me, metaphysical means a deeper thought consciousness. And relating that to what you were just talking about in loving kindness, I also think of metta meditation. It's a form of meditation that practices loving kindness. And it does that by cultivating more loving kindness towards yourself, using your thoughts to do so, and then sending that higher vibration of loving kindness out from you to the rest of the universe. And that also brings me to a thought of one meditation I teach is so hum. It's the sound of your inhalation, so, and the sound of your exhalation, hum. If you put your hand over top of your chest and you all say hum, you can feel the vibration of your hand. And that vibration is the vibration of the energy inside of the atoms of every single cell in the body. And that's what we are. We're atoms, we're energy, we're full of energy. So when we raise our vibration and our thought consciousness by our thinking, and we raise our kindness and compassion towards ourselves, we then radiate that vibration out further from within us to around us. And as we breathe in and as we breathe out, I always like to include in that particular meditation so hum, the sound of our inhalation and exhalation, is that when you're breathing in same energy and oxygen and vital nutrients that every single person in the entire universe is breathing, because it's eventually going around and circulating throughout the entire world, and we're all sharing that breath, we're all sharing that energy, and it's giving us life force, which we bring into our body, which we then have an opportunity to project back out to every single other living being in the world as well. Project the love and kindness.
First of all, I wanted to say that Mr. Gary Logan, who asked this question, he is a guru in meditation, a great psychologist, and I asked him, why aren't you speaking today? And he said, I like to listen. So he is a wonderful, wonderful person himself and very professional in all these fields. So I'm coming to your session to teach you meditation and all. And Gary, I wanted to say, when we talk about metta, in my little knowledge, we talk about something above and beyond. Is that right? I think there is a little bit of difference between people who believe in what we call God, the source of being, or people who say nature. And I want to say, for people, religious people, all this energy, all these things, the source of that energy is what is called really God. And yes, I do believe that we become connected through this meditation and prayers to this source of energy. For example, when I say that 95 times, Allah Akbar, towards the end of it, I feel some sort of relief and relaxation, it's just a feeling I cannot describe. But to me, it is not that they're all matter. There is something that we may call it spirit, energy, whatever, but it is there. And we connect and we relate to that source of existence, and maybe we can call it spiritual dimension of existence. And to me, mind is the, the facility that connects us to that source of energy, source of spirituality, spirit, whatever we want to call it. That's how I feel, anyway.
I actually call it agape absolute, the divine love of the infinite intelligence of the being. Yes, lady has a question.
It's not so much a question, but a comment. And that is that we as individuals are twofold. We're material, that's our physical bodies, and we tend to our physical bodies, we feed it, we nurture it, we go to the doctor when we feel ill. Well, spirit, meditation, is tuning into our spiritual reality, which we all have here, spiritual reality. By praying and by meditating, we are tuning into our spiritual reality, which is just as important as our physical reality. And this spiritual reality is what goes on to the next world of God, many worlds of God that continue after this physical journey that we have here. So meditation is very important.
Thank you very much. Any other?
I'm going to ask you kind of a lightweight question. Is there any spiritual tradition or religion that you can think of that does not promote meditation in one form or another?
I think the question is there any spiritual tradition that promote meditation of some form? Vicky, you've got a fairly good thoughts where things come from anyway. Something?
Yes, I'm not sure that it's a religious tradition, but I am aware that some groups perhaps hold silence and meditation with some fear. If there is a belief that if there's a space that the devil can come in. So that's the only awareness that I have of perhaps in some groups some fear around the notion of mental stillness. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if I could ask Vicky actually on that, because I think that's one of devil and stuff like that's fairly heavily loaded language, but when people are coming out of a place of great fear or hurt, it seems to me sometimes maybe what some of those people are worried about is that if you stop, be silent, then you get filled with all that negativity. Do you think it's important that, I suppose this getting on to community and connection with others, do you think it's important for people, especially if they're coming out of a damaged experience, to have, I guess which the Buddhist tradition would have, a guide or a mentor, or is that something that you provide through your work? Do you think it's an important aspect?
Yes, definitely. People work with me one-on-one as clients, and people also come who have been through challenges and traumas. They come to meditation hoping that will give them a way, find a way for them to process it. But my response to that is we have our sight, taste, touch, hearing. We have our external senses that give us a guide of what's going on external to us. And I always encourage people to realise that our internal world is represented by our feelings and our emotions. So they're there for a reason. And a lot of people are guided by their fears to put their mind elsewhere, to escape the fear of feeling, the fear of really experiencing that anger, or really experiencing resentment or hatred or all of those really low emotions, because it takes you to an unsafe place. And we all want to feel safe. We all want to belong. They're two of the lower self-actualization levels of being safe and belonging. So when we have negative emotions and they can be overwhelming and very intense, it's almost taught to us that we can't feel them navigate around or over or under, but never through. And the only way through is to actually feel your feelings. That's what they're there for. So I do get a lot of people, whether it's through therapy or whether it's through the courses or classes, who come with trauma, who come with baggage, who come with a lot of negative emotions that they just don't know how to process. And I encourage them to, first off, be aware of them, and secondly, to name them. We sometimes, we know that we have certain negative emotions, but we don't often sit with them long enough to actually identify what is this that I'm feeling, and actually name it. Sometimes we're either happy or we're sad. But there's so many spectrum of emotions between happy and sad. There's so many of them. But it's really important. I think it's essentially important. And I do meet a lot of people who don't know how to sit with their emotions, who don't know how to allow themselves to feel that desperateness, to feel that grief, to feel those low emotions that have them in a place where they feel completely unsafe. But I think encouraging people to do that allows them to find some safety within their own mind and body and heart and experience of their world in a much more productive way, because the next time they're going through a challenge, they're much more likely then to allow the emotions to come and flow through them, to sit with them long enough so that they can process them and then release them and let them go. Otherwise, the negative energies, the emotions that we don't experience, that we don't allow ourselves to feel, they sit in the body. They stay there. They manifest in areas within the cells of the body. And illness and disease are then welcome to come in the longer the tension, the tightness, the negative emotions reside in the body. And, down the track, that could mean cancer, that could mean so many different types of things that is negative energy trapped within your body. So, yes, and I encourage people to feel their feelings. That's what they're there for.
How do you begin to, I know you said about that you need to identify peers. I find it hard to discipline myself to do it because of so many thoughts and feelings and everything, or try and make excuses all the time. How do you stop from doing that and actually do it for your well-being?
Is that to, who did you direct that to?
Anyone?
Meditation is a discipline, and you just sit down and you do it. Simple as that. And I think I mentioned before, it's our minds and our egos who want to complicate it, who want us to think there's so many more important things to be doing. You sit down and you do it.
If I could just add to that, there is a thing called a technique called inner surfing, where you feel into your physical, where the sensation is, and then you surf that feeling, and it will then come into an emotional fallout. Variable routine, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Lee. I just have this comment in relation to what you mentioned, the lady. I was thinking that most of us are thinking about meditation techniques. We are thinking about meditation techniques and how to achieve peace and quiet and to be able to deal with what's outside us more efficiently. We also need to look at what meditation actually means. Meditation means that having that peace and purity of mind within, and on the outside, when we face the situations and circumstances, we are able to maintain that peace and being good when dealing with the outside situation. So when you think about meditation, it's also the inside and the outside. So if we ask about whether any religions don't have meditation, I would believe that all would have meditation. Thank you.
would like to say something especially at this point? But just in terms of time, because we're heading for lunch. I want to keep them. Dorothy.
God just reminded me that when we pray, we talk to God. When we meditate, we listen to God.
That's right. I think there's a lot too much talking in the Christian tradition. The Orthodox Christian tradition have a very deep kind of tradition of meditation song, and they take up rather than Maranatha, they take up what's called the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, see upon me, and so on. That's kind of repeated. But one of the things they talk about is sentencing from the Bible, which says pray ceaselessly. Now that doesn't mean sit down in a church and do stuff. It means, I think, and that's what they say, is having this basic attentiveness to life and a proper listening attitude, which you may cultivate through means of meditation, but it's something that is about every moment, about being aware of your body and of everything around you and so on. I guess maybe those special moments need that. There's one more comment at the back, and then I think we'll draw towards it.
Just thank you, John. Just one quick question in terms of the response, I suppose, in terms of that question about how do you do it and the restrictions. I've found that I treat it a bit like jogging. When you haven't jogged for a while, just do 1 minute. Next day you do 2 minutes. Next day you do 3 minutes. And you slowly improve it. You just start to do 1 minute. Next day, why don't I do 2 minutes? And all of a sudden you might put it out.
Just on that, that's actually called neuroplasticity. For many, many years they thought that our brain wasn't changeable, but our brain as an organ is changeable. So when people want to make change, they often try to do everything at once, and they become overwhelmed and they think, oh, this is too hard, I'm not going to do it. And their self-talk takes over and says, oh, no, you can't do that, you don't have enough time, and we self-sabotage. Yes, she's just shaking her head. We self-sabotage. So that's our thinking, that's our subconscious mind and our beliefs and values that get in the way. But to be able to create change, you first off have to identify what is the belief about the change that you want to make. Because I did say in my talk that the subconscious mind is 1,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. So our subconscious mind is compartmentalising all of those little bits of information that we've learned from observation, through experience, throughout our life thus far, and it informs us of what is our reality. So when we sometimes say, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want to create change, if our belief about the change that we want to create does not align with each other, then our self-talk, our inner critic, our thinking will somehow come in and change our reality back to what is real for us. So making change every day is first off identifying what is it you want to change and what do you think about it, what do you believe about it. Does what you believe about it align with what you want to change? If there's a fear there, fear of being not being good enough, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being unworthy, then fear of not being perfect enough, not being in control, then ask yourself, is that real? Where did I get from? Is it real? Is it relevant to who I am now? Is it really what I truly believe about myself? What would I like to believe instead? Even if it's a belief that I'm willing to change, I'm willing to try. Try one thing and do it daily. Just like meditation, it is scientifically proven if you meditate 20 minutes per day, and roughly the same amount of time per day, the same time of day, then your brain will start to go through a process of, imagine a big field of grass, and you walk through it the first time, you have to move things to the side, and that can be your negative thinking, your old programming, you're moving it to the side. And then if you do it again the next day, you can see just a few little footsteps of the day before. But if you do that every day, consistently, that one thing, constantly just focusing on that one thing every day, and being consistent, the brain starts to adapt. The brain starts to recognise this is the new pathway, this is the new belief, this is the new behaviour. And through neuroplasticity, your brain will adapt and it will help you create behaviour change. But it starts with the thought, because the thought creates the emotional feeling, and the emotional feeling then creates the behaviour. So you have to work back. You can't just work with two, you must go back to the root cause.
Fantastic, that's great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who's here. What we're going to do to close is to say, we'll ask Mr. Hanning to say something before we have lunch, and lunch is available in over in the hall, as I said. It's a vegetarian lunch, and I do warmly invite everyone to stay if they possibly can. Before we do that, I'm going to ask Joe to say something about one of the things that we hope to be an outcome from here, and you may have your answers. There's a whole lot of questions I was going to sort of ask the panel about how meditation works in different places, and how, for instance, meditation might help or does help our business community to be more peaceful and effective in what it does. Or I wonder sometimes whether if we had meditation in Parliament, that might help occasionally. But certainly in schools, which has been a very important area, and maybe there's a whole area of ways in which we might explore as individuals or together with others how we might be able to share our own experience and with others, so that becomes more a part of our commitment to peace in this wonderful community of Toowoomba. But our specific thing that we are sort of offering as a way forward, and hopefully, even if the group does not, maybe this is starting a little network of people who maybe can share some of the insights we have today and build on that, is to have a regular group that might meet from across the community, rather than within one religious tradition or a particular space. So I'm going to ask Joe to say a few words about that.
Just before I say that, there's a quote I'd like to read to you by Victor Hugo. There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. And I believe the time has come for silence, for peace and meditation to bring us well together. So as Jonathan just said, as a follow-on from today's forum, next Wednesday at 5:30, we're going to meet for meditation, open to all, faith, no faith, at Trams, and there's a flyer that you would have had on the table in front of you with the details of that. If you are unsure of anything, please do not be afraid to ask me. There, and let's bring peace to this community and let it spread out into the wider world.
I'll ask Mr. Hayden to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Reverend John. Just a few words quickly. I know lunch is at 12. I think, first of all, we want to thank Reverend John King and Joe Anderson for bringing this initiative into reality. I think they are the people behind it, and purely it's just that we are given the opportunity to host this. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful day, and I'm sure we all really enjoy this very much. Now, there's something that just that came about, that meditation is free, right? And when we eat a menu, or rather when we eat food, we always enjoy a dessert, right? So make meditation your dessert. I think that would be nice. All right. So with that, thank you very much. But I've spoken to Reverend Jonathan. Before we leave, I think it would be wonderful if we all can take a group picture together. So that's something we can treasure. And once again, have a safe journey home. We'll meet you again. Thank you very much. And as you go around, there are a lot of things to pick up on the way. Pick them up. That's something may be useful to do. Thank you very much.
Before we do, we just have just a few final time of quiet and attentiveness before we come. Yeah, do come forward for a photo. That would be really wonderful.
So let's become still, upright, awake, eyes slightly closed. So let's finish this absolutely wonderful morning with a time of silence. And for this time we might use the mantra of peace. So just become quiet in your body and your heart and your mind. And with each exhalation internally, softly saying the word peace and listen to it. Gently letting that mantra go. Feel the peace in your heart. Let it start there. Let it blossom. Let it spread. Thank you.